is what I hear from Scrum Masters about 3 months in. We track our action items. They're all in a spreadsheet. We review them every retro. And somehow, 6 months later, the same items are still sitting there. That's a system design problem. And if you are nodding right now, this lecture fixes it permanently. In the last lecture, you learned how to create well-formed action items using definition of done checklist. Now, I'm going to show you exactly where those items live and how they move through your sprint workflow. This is the Sprint Integrated Action Tracker. It's not a separate improvement backlog. It's a tracking mechanism that turns improvement work into first-class sprint backlog items with the same visibility and accountability as your feature work. Let me show you the template structure. Then we'll walk through how to set this up in your tool. The tracker has 7 critical fields. Every field serves a specific purpose. First, action item ID and description. This is your reference. A short, unique identifier and the specific action from your retrospective. Not improve testing, but add automated API contract tests to CI pipeline for authentication and bytes. Second, quadrant. This comes directly from your locus of control analysis, quadrant 1, 2, 3, or 4. This field tells you at a glance whether this item should be executed immediately, batched, escalated, or released. If you're looking at a tracker full of quadrant 3 items sitting in progress, something's broken. Those should have been escalated, not assigned to the team. Third is owner. Single person accountable, not team. Okay? A name. Owner doesn't mean they do all the work. It means they are accountable for progress and visibility. This is the person who shows up to stand up and report status on this item, just like they would for a feature. 4. Target completion. Which sprint should this be done? Most improvement actions should be completed with one sprint. If it cannot, you either need to break it down, like a user story, or route it differently. This field creates urgency. It prevents, we'll get to it eventually. 5th, status. This is where most tracking systems break, so pay attention here. We use a 5-stage workflow, not 3. I'll explain why in a minute. 6, acceptance criteria. What does done looks like for this specific action? This prevents the 90% complete for 3 weeks problem. Either the acceptance criteria are met or they are not. 7th, impact measurement. How will you know this improvement actually worked? This is your link to the improvement impact log you will learn about later. Did cycle time decreased? Did defects dropped? Did stand-up time shrink? Measurable results or observable behavior change. Those 7 fields turn await intention into trackable work. If you're looking at a tracker with awake descriptions, no acceptance criteria, and no impact measurement, that's not a tracker, that's just a nicer looking spreadsheet. Now, let's talk about the 5-stage status workflow, because this is what separates functional tracking from theater. Most teams use 3 stages: to do, in progress, and done, right? That's not enough granularity for improvement work, and here is why. Stage 1, identified. This action came out of a retrospective. It's been categorized using our locus of control. It passes the definition of done checklist, but it hasn't been committed to a sprint yet. Okay, so that's why we have a stage 2, committed. The team accepted this into the sprint planning. It's part of the sprint's capacity allocation. Ownership is confirmed. This is the moment the action becomes real work. And here is the rule. Nothing moves from identified to committed without explicit capacity agreement in sprint planning. No stealth commits. No, let's just squeeze this in. If it's committed, the team consciously allocate capacity for it. If the team cannot commit capacity without risking sprint goals, the correct move is not to commit this action yet, not sneak it in. Stage 3, in progress. Someone has started working on it. Same as any other sprint backlog item. Stage 4, done. The acceptance criteria are met. The work is technically complete. Now, here is where most teams stop. They mark it done and move on. And I believe that's a mistake, because there is stage 5, impact verified. This is what makes this system work. Impact verified means you are confirmed the measurable result or observable behavioral change. You didn't just complete the action. You verified it actually improved something. For example, you added automated linting to your PR checks. That's done. But impact verified happens when you measure that your PR review time dropped from 3 days to 1 day, or you escaped defects decreased by 40%. This stage prevents premature closure. It forces the team to close the loop between action and outcome. And it gives you the data you need for improvement impact log that proves your value as a Scrum Master. Here is what this looks like when teams skip impact verified. They mark an item done because the technical work is complete. 2 sprints later, the same issue resurfaces in the retrospective. The team says, we already tried that improvement, when what actually happened is that they implemented something but never verified it worked. That's how teams build false beliefs about what doesn't work and stop trusting the improvement system. So stage 5 prevents that pattern. Now, to setup. I'm going to show you principles first, then specific examples. The core principle is this. Your improvement action need to live in the same system where your team already works. Not in a separate tool, not a different board. The same place they see sprint work every single day. If your team uses Jira, improvement action becomes Jira issues. If you use Azure DevOps, they become work items. If you use Trello, they become cards on your sprint board. So here is what that looks like practically. In Jira, create a custom issue type called improvement action or just task. Okay? And then add custom field for quadrant impact measurement and 5-stage status workflow. You can use label for quadrant categorization if custom fields aren't available. Filter your sprint board to show improvement action alongside feature work. In Azure DevOps, use a custom work item type or tag standard tasks with retrospective actions. Create queries that surface improvement actions in your sprint dashboard. Use Kanban board custom columns for the 5-stage workflow. If you use Trello, in Trello you can create a swim lane on your sprint board specifically for improvement actions. Use colored labels for quadrants and add custom fields via power-ups for improved measurement. Move cards through your workflow columns just like feature cards. The mechanism varies by tool, but the principle stays constant. Improvement action must have the same visibility as a product work. When your team opens the board in daily Scrum, they see improvement actions. When you review sprint progress, improvement actions are there. When someone asks, what are you working on today? Improvement work is part of the answer. Okay? That's the integration. not a separate tracking system that gets ignored, but an embedded workflow that creates accountability. When this tracker is working, you will notice one immediate behavior change. Improvement actions get discussed in daily stand-up without prompting. Nobody has to remind the team. The owner reports status naturally because it is visible right there on the board alongside everything else they are working on. Okay? You get the complete done-for-you tracker template with 3 sprints of example data showing exactly how items progresses through the workflow. Use it as your reference when you are setting up your first tracker. In the next lecture, I'm going to give you the scripted language for the hardest conversation most Scrum Master face. Negotiating improvement work capacity with your product owner. Because you can have the perfect tracker, but if improvement action never make it into sprint planning because we don't have capacity, you are still running theater instead of system. That conversation is what we are building next.